They say truth comes out in the smallest details. But what if the smallest detail nearly shattered a royal marriage? Leaked hotel receipts from Paris. That's all it took. Suddenly, the world saw a side of Meghan Markle the palace never wanted exposed. And once those receipts hit the internet, nothing would ever be the same. But what really happened behind those velvet ropes? And why did it make Meghan break down? They say truth comes out in the smallest details. But what if the smallest detail nearly shattered a royal marriage? Leaked hotel receipts from Paris. That's all it took. Suddenly, the world saw a side of Meghan Markle the palace never wanted exposed. And once those receipts hit the internet, nothing would ever be the same. But what really happened behind those velvet ropes? And why did it make Meghan break down? It all started with a trip to Paris, a city of lights, romance, and quiet luxury. Meghan and Harry were there to celebrate a private milestone, away from cameras, away from paparazzi. On the surface, it seemed like a peaceful escape. But the world was about to get a glimpse into a side of royal life rarely exposed. The hotel receipts weren't just normal bills. They listed dates, unusual charges, and cryptic line items that caught the public's attention immediately. Suddenly, every detail became a headline. Who was staying in which room? Why were there unusual names in the guest registry? And why did the charges include items that weren't part of a typical stay? Here's a lesser-known fact. One senior palace source later revealed that several of the names on those receipts didn't match anyone publicly acknowledged in the royal circle. This raised suspicions. Why were these names used, and who authorized these bookings? Some reports claimed that receipts included rooms booked under false identities, a rare and secretive protocol in royal travel. As the leak spread, Meghan's reaction was caught by insiders. Sources described her as visibly shaken, retreating from public events, and breaking down in private moments. Even aides were reportedly scrambling to contain the fallout. The palace, meanwhile, remained unusually silent, allowing speculation to grow unchecked. Another shocking detail emerged. Forensic accounting experts later confirmed that the receipts were legitimate. They had unique hotel identifiers, time-stamped entries, and encrypted reference codes, details that couldn't easily be faked. For royal watchers, this meant one thing: this wasn't a hoax. This was real. And the implications were explosive. Public curiosity turned into obsession. Headlines screamed, social media erupted, and every journalist seemed to have a new theory. But the most pressing question remained unanswered. What could be so dangerous about a hotel receipt that it could send a royal into panic? And so the mystery deepened. Who leaked the documents? What secrets did they reveal? And most importantly, what did Meghan fear would happen if the world knew the full story? But what if this wasn't just a personal embarrassment? What if the leak was the spark that would ignite something far bigger? A scandal that would shake the monarchy to its core? The Paris hotel receipts were just the beginning. On the surface, they looked like simple bills, room charges, dining, spa treatments. But behind each line item, there was a story the public never saw. And as investigators and journalists dug deeper, a pattern began to emerge. Some receipts included charges for private meeting rooms, VIP services, and mysterious third-party names that weren't publicly associated with Meghan or Harry. Palace insiders whispered that these weren't ordinary guests. Some of the names had never been seen in royal circles before, raising questions about the nature of the trip. Why were they there? And why hadn't the palace disclosed their presence? Here's a shocking fact. Forensic experts later confirmed that the receipts were authentic, with encrypted hotel codes and time-stamped entries. This wasn't a fake leak. This was a breach of privacy that exposed highly sensitive information. Some of the charges even included rooms booked under pseudonyms, a protocol rarely used except for extreme discretion. But what was so secret that it required false names? Private sources later revealed that part of the trip involved meetings with international contacts linked to philanthropic projects and charitable organizations. On paper, these were routine, noble endeavors. But some of the line items suggested expenditures that raised eyebrows: late-night meetings, unusual vendor payments, and services that were never publicly documented. To the media, it looked suspicious. To the palace, it was a security and protocol nightmare. Insiders say Meghan was motivated by a desire for privacy, not scandal. She reportedly instructed her team to minimize publicity for these meetings, fearing unwanted media attention. And yet, no one expected the leak. Within hours, journalists were piecing together the receipts, speculating about hidden agendas and secret alliances. Here's another lesser-known detail. One European tabloid reported that some hotel services were linked to contacts in business sectors previously unaffiliated with the royal household. This fueled speculation that Meghan and Harry were building an independent network, something the palace might have viewed as a challenge to traditional royal authority. The public reaction was swift and intense. Fans of the couple defended them, arguing that private meetings shouldn't be turned into scandal. Critics, however, claimed that secrecy indicated misconduct or misuse of privileges. Social media exploded with theories, accusations, and even conspiracy claims. The receipts were interpreted as evidence of everything from protocol violations to hidden political maneuvering. And yet, no one suspected the full truth about what was happening inside the royal household. Behind closed doors, aides were scrambling to figure out how the leak occurred. Emails were traced, staff questioned, and security protocols reviewed. Some even suspected an internal breach, a palace insider with access who might have leaked the documents intentionally. Here's the twist. While the world was focused on the receipts, the real story was about trust, secrecy, and control. The scandal wasn't just financial or procedural, it was about power dynamics within the palace. Who controlled the narrative? Who got to decide what was seen by the public? And who would pay the price when secrets came to light? And yet, no one suspected the truth about what was happening in the royal household, until it was too late. Once those Paris hotel receipts hit the internet, the world couldn't look away. Headlines screamed accusations. Every media outlet had its own version of the story, some factual, some speculative, and many wildly exaggerated. The leak had ignited a frenzy that no one, not even the palace, could control. Journalists dissected every line. Who booked the rooms? What were the mysterious third-party charges? Why had false names been used? Social media turned into a storm of speculation, memes, and hot takes. Supporters defended Meghan fiercely, calling it an invasion of privacy. Critics called it proof of secrecy and potential misconduct. The divide was immediate and stark. Here's a shocking fact. Palace insiders later revealed that the media frenzy prompted a temporary lockdown of all royal communications. Phones were confiscated, emails monitored, and even internal memos delayed. The palace hadn't faced such a total media clampdown since Princess Diana's infamous press battles decades earlier. The stakes were high, and tension was mounting. The royal family's handling of the press added fuel to the fire. Initial statements were vague, almost cryptic, leaving journalists to speculate further. Some aides admitted later that confusion within the household led to conflicting information being leaked unintentionally, which only made the headlines more sensational. Every day, news stories emerged, some claiming financial impropriety, others suggesting secret alliances. Here's another lesser-known historical fact. In the 1930s, a similar press storm engulfed the monarchy when a royal's private correspondence was leaked. That leak almost sparked a constitutional crisis. The parallels were eerie. History seemed to be repeating itself, centuries apart, yet under the same pressures: media scrutiny, public curiosity, and the fragility of royal reputation. Tension escalated further when investigative journalists began digging into the hotel's past. They found that the Paris property had been linked to previous high-profile leaks and scandals, making it a perfect storm for public attention. Rumors flew about hidden cameras, security lapses, and even clandestine meetings with influential figures outside the royal circle. Every rumor was amplified by social media, turning speculation into perceived fact. And the palace wasn't just reactive, they were cornered. Public opinion was shifting by the hour. Polls showed that a growing segment of the population questioned the monarchy's transparency. Every new headline seemed to deepen the scandal's impact. Some royal aides privately admitted that the palace's lack of immediate clarity allowed the media narrative to spiral almost uncontrollably. Here's a surprising twist. Sources later revealed that the palace did have a secret ally in the media, a journalist sympathetic to Meghan's position, quietly feeding context behind the scenes. But the question remained, how long could that ally protect the narrative before the full truth, or another leak, emerged? By now, the scandal had transcended hotel receipts. It had become a story about trust, privacy, and the immense power of modern media. Every article, tweet, and broadcast carried weight. Every interpretation shaped public perception. And through it all, Meghan and Harry's private lives were dissected in real time for millions to see. The press frenzy raised a chilling question. If this much scrutiny could come from just a few leaked documents, what else might surface? And how far would the media go before the royal family was forced to respond, or to crumble under the pressure? As the media frenzy reached a fever pitch, the palace wasn't just battling headlines, it was battling itself. Inside the royal household, the scandal over the Paris receipts sparked deep divisions, tensions that had been simmering for years finally boiling over. It wasn't just about leaked documents anymore. It was about trust, loyalty, and the fragile bonds that held the monarchy together. According to insiders, some senior royals were furious. Not only at the leak, but at how Meghan had handled the aftermath. Private meetings reportedly turned into heated arguments. One aide described a confrontation between Meghan and a high-ranking palace official. Voices raised, words exchanged sharply, and tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Questions about protocol, secrecy, and loyalty flew across the room. Here's a shocking fact most people didn't see. Confidential letters later surfaced, circulated quietly within the palace, criticizing how the trip had been managed. Some phrases were blunt. This was reckless. We should have known better. Trust has been broken. These weren't idle complaints. They reflected a profound unease, a fear that one misstep could ripple across the entire institution. Meanwhile, Meghan's allies pushed back. They argued that the palace had mishandled her security and privacy long before the scandal erupted. The leak, they insisted, was the real betrayal. It wasn't about the receipts themselves, it was about the erosion of trust and the lack of protection for private matters. This clash of perspectives exposed not just a procedural divide, but a personal one. Historical parallels only made the situation more intense. Think back to Princess Diana's separation from Prince Charles. The family was publicly fractured, and private conflicts spilled into the media for all to see. Sources within the palace noted eerie similarities. Tensions, secrecy, and loyalty disputes now threatened to repeat history. The lessons of the past, once considered cautionary tales, seemed ignored. Another shocking insight emerged. During private conversations, one senior royal openly challenged the authority of others in handling the scandal. Sources said it was unprecedented for someone so high-ranking to voice such disagreement publicly. That revelation sent whispers through the palace corridors. If one of the most trusted figures was questioning the handling of the situation, what did it mean for the rest of the family? Even more startling, some aides reported that there were secret discussions about whether Meghan and Harry could continue to participate fully in official royal duties. Those discussions weren't just about optics, they were about survival. The family was weighing loyalty, reputation, and power against the personal freedoms of the couple. Every decision carried the weight of tradition, public opinion, and centuries of precedent. Here's a private detail that shocked historians later. The family reportedly compared the Paris scandal to previous internal crises, noting patterns of secrecy, media manipulation, and internal rivalry. Palace officials were concerned that if the underlying rifts weren't addressed, the monarchy itself could suffer long-term damage. And that fear wasn't idle. Every past divide had consequences for public perception, and every scandal risked destabilizing centuries of carefully curated authority. As arguments continued, alliances quietly shifted. Some family members remained loyal to Meghan, others sided with palace tradition. Tension simmered in every corridor, every hallway, every private room. And while the world focused on the hotel receipts, the real drama was unfolding behind closed doors. Hidden letters, private conversations, and unspoken resentments that threatened to erupt at any moment. And just when it seemed the family could survive the scandal, whispers of another revelation began to surface. A secret document, a previously unknown correspondence, hinted that the Paris leak was only the beginning. But was the scandal truly over? Or was the royal family about to face an even bigger revelation, one that could tear trust apart entirely? Once the Paris hotel receipts became public, the storm wasn't just in the media, it moved into the courts. Meghan's legal team immediately swung into action. They filed multiple lawsuits against unnamed media outlets and individuals, claiming that sensitive financial information had been illegally obtained and published. This wasn't just a PR fight. This was a battle for privacy, control, and reputation. Here's a shocking fact most people didn't know. Even members of the royal family, despite their public status, are legally entitled to privacy protections under British law. Leaks like this aren't just scandals, their potential criminal offenses. Meghan's lawyers argued that publishing raw financial data without context was a deliberate attempt to damage her reputation. Some of the outlets claimed public interest, but legal experts quickly pointed out that private transactions, especially those tied to security and charitable work, rarely qualify. The palace, meanwhile, remained publicly silent. Internally, chaos reigned. Officials debated whether the leak violated royal protocol or security policy. Some aides feared criminal liability, while others blamed Meghan's team for failing to follow standard procedures. A few senior figures privately admitted that the palace had never faced a breach like this in modern history. The risk to both image and security was unprecedented. Public reaction was explosive. Social media polarized the nation. Fans of Meghan and Harry defended them fiercely, calling the leaks an invasion of privacy and harassment. Critics argued that secrecy indicated misconduct. Polls revealed a sharp dip in public trust for the monarchy, and online forums buzzed with speculation about misuse of funds, hidden meetings, and internal betrayal. Here's a lesser-known historical fact. Centuries ago, a leaked financial record nearly triggered a constitutional crisis. Back then, the royal family had to face Parliament directly to defend itself. In modern times, no member of the monarchy had encountered legal exposure like this, and it was a wake-up call for both security and media strategy. The legal strategy was meticulous. Meghan's team didn't just sue, they demanded retractions, court orders to remove the leaked documents from online archives, and compensation for reputational damage. They even coordinated with French authorities, since the leak involved a hotel in Paris and potentially violated European privacy laws. Experts noted that under French law, unauthorized publication of private financial data could carry serious penalties, even jail time. At the same time, the personal toll on Meghan and Harry was immense. Sources described sleepless nights, emotional strain, and constant pressure from both the media and palace advisors. The receipts were just the surface. Beneath them lay questions of loyalty, trust, and family unity. Every court filing, every press leak, every speculative article felt like an attack on their character and their marriage. Even within the palace, the fallout was intense. Discussions about royal privileges, protocols, and the handling of private information became heated. Some aides argued that the monarchy needed a complete overhaul of privacy and communications policies. Others worried that public trust could erode permanently if the family didn't manage the narrative carefully. A particularly shocking revelation emerged during the legal proceedings. Forensic auditors confirmed that some receipts had been misinterpreted by the media. What looked like extravagant spending was actually standard procedure for certain charitable engagements and private meetings. The leak had twisted mundane details into scandalous headlines. Yet despite legal victories and clarifications, public opinion remained divided. The damage wasn't just legal, it was emotional and reputational. Families, historians, and media analysts all debated the long-term consequences. Questions lingered. Could the royal family recover from this? Would public trust ever be fully restored? And just when it seemed the legal battles might stabilize, whispers emerged of a potential second leak, one that could expose even more sensitive details and plunge the family back into crisis. But was this the royal family's worst crisis, or was something bigger about to unfold? The storm finally reached its apex. Months of leaks, legal battles, media scrutiny, and family tension all converged into a single, unavoidable reckoning. The Paris hotel receipts, which had started as a minor breach of privacy, had now become a symbol of everything that could go wrong when secrecy collided with public curiosity. The royal family, and Meghan in particular, were facing a moment that would define them for years to come. Inside the palace, a series of closed-door meetings were held. The Queen, according to insiders, demanded clarity and accountability. Key aides were questioned, protocols were rewritten, and a full review of security and privacy procedures began. The leaks weren't just embarrassing, they were a warning. Any further misstep could have far-reaching consequences, not just for Meghan and Harry, but for the entire monarchy. Here's a shocking fact that few outside the palace know. One of the meetings reportedly included a discussion of stripping certain royal privileges from the couple. It wasn't just speculation. Legal advisors drew up contingency plans, exploring whether the couple could continue representing the monarchy publicly while maintaining privacy in their personal lives. For a royal, this was almost unprecedented. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry were navigating both relief and frustration. Legal victories had been achieved, Some outlets had issued retractions, and certain false narratives had been corrected. But the emotional toll remained. Sources close to the couple described long nights of planning, strategy sessions, and therapy. The royal spotlight was unforgiving, and the receipts had shown how quickly the world could scrutinize even the most private actions. Here's another surprising fact. In the aftermath, the couple made a quiet but deliberate decision to reclaim their narrative. They began selectively sharing details of their personal and charitable work in controlled media channels, balancing transparency with privacy. This wasn't just damage control, it was a tactical move to regain trust and control over public perception. The public's reaction, however, remained unpredictable. Some hailed Meghan's courage in fighting back against invasive reporting. Others criticized the monarchy for allowing such a breach to occur. Polls suggested that the royal family's approval ratings had dipped, but not catastrophically. People were divided, fascinated, and still deeply invested in the story. Perhaps the most telling fact came from within the palace. Senior officials admitted privately that the scandal had sparked a complete re-evaluation of how royal trips, even private ones, were managed. From security protocols to financial documentation, every detail was being reconsidered. The receipts had not just exposed private actions, they had changed the way the monarchy would operate in the future. And yet, even as the palace implemented these changes, the emotional fractures within the family lingered. Meghan's relationships with certain family members remained strained. Some allies had emerged, but others had quietly distanced themselves, wary of public backlash. Trust, once broken, could not be easily rebuilt. A final twist emerged in the months following the scandal. Investigative journalists discovered subtle links between the Paris leak and earlier, unrelated breaches of royal privacy. Could there have been a coordinated effort to destabilize the couple's public image? Was someone inside the palace complicit? These questions fueled speculation for years, and no definitive answers were ever fully confirmed. In the end, the Paris hotel receipts were more than just paperwork, they were the spark that ignited a chain reaction. The final reckoning wasn't about punishment, or even legal consequences. It was about awareness. The monarchy realized how fragile its image could be, and Meghan and Harry learned how far someone would go to protect privacy, and how deeply betrayal could cut. But what came next shocked even the most loyal supporters of the crown. For in a world where leaks, media storms, and private conflicts had become public obsession, no one could predict where the next scandal would emerge, or how it would change the monarchy forever. The Paris hotel receipt scandal left a mark on the royal family that no one could ignore. What began as a seemingly small breach of privacy had spiraled into months of legal battles, media frenzy, and personal turmoil. Meghan Markle's private life, once shielded from public view, had been dissected for the world to see, and the monarchy had been forced to confront vulnerabilities it hadn't fully acknowledged. Here's a surprising fact. Insiders revealed that many of the palace's new privacy protocols were directly inspired by this incident. From encrypted communications to stricter travel procedures, the receipts had permanently reshaped how the royal family protected themselves and their secrets. In a way, the scandal became a catalyst for modernization, even amid the chaos it caused. Yet questions remain. Can trust within the royal family ever be fully restored after such leaks? Will public scrutiny ever truly relent, or has the couple's struggle permanently changed the way we view the monarchy? And perhaps most provocatively, is this scandal a turning point, or just the beginning of a new era of royal exposure? One thing is certain, the world will never look at palace trips, hotel bills, or royal privacy the same way again. Every detail, no matter how small, can spark intrigue, tension, and speculation that reverberates across continents. What do you think? Was this scandal a moment that forever changed the monarchy, or was it just one chapter in a much larger story? If you want more royal secrets, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and stay updated on the latest exposé. And tell us in the comments. Do you think the royal family will ever fully recover from this scandal? What would have happened if the Queen had made a different decision? Should the royal family change their approach to secrecy? The palace may have survived this storm, but the question remains, what scandal is waiting just around the corner?